Hey, what's going on, everyone? Justin here, and it might be a little bit of an odd kind of video, but I've been craving to do some more buddy reads with others recently, and I've been having a really difficult time lining some stuff up. But I'm not going to name any names, John and Angie, Brian, Brendan, and others. But anyways, I thought I'd just share a bunch of books that I'd like to read, preferably with others, in this video and see what happens. So I have either my own discords or co-host some other ones. We got history, philosophy, and science. Generally we just kind of like chat on the discords and make our own little group discussions and stuff like that. But anyways, let's just get started with some science books. So one that I just recently picked up is What the Wild Sea Can Be, The Future of the World's Oceans by Helen Scales. I've read 3 of her other books. Let's see, Spirals in Time, The Brilliant Abyss, and Around the World in 80 Fish. And I still got to get to her Eye of the Shoal, which I think might have been her first book. But I just really love her writing style. Just kind of taking the marine biology approach with like kind of tagging along with some more scientists and everything, along with her own like studies and research. So I just think it's really cool. I've really enjoyed them. Plus, like, you can't really go wrong with that cover. Plus, you get the cool map and everything as well. I didn't even hear about this one, and I just happened to see it. And this is one of those really rare new book like pickups that I get. Like I said, that doesn't happen very often with me, but that's definitely one I'm looking forward to. Next up is one that a lot of people seemed very excited about in the comments and stuff, was Richard Dawkins' The Ancestor's Tale. And I know this is like, like 20 years old or something at this point, but a lot of people are saying this is definitely like one of his good ones. It's just a really really well written kind of narrative, I guess, reverse history of life, starting with kind of like the present day with like our human DNA, kind of going back in time with, our, I guess, like common ancestors and stuff like that. So like I said, a lot of people seemed interested, and this one actually has some like heft to it. So, it would be probably a really good kind of buddy read style one. One that I think would be a great introduction for anybody who's new to reading nature and that kind of thing is David Attenborough's Ocean, Earth's Last Wilderness, also written with Colin Butfield. And that's because this documentary just came out, I think it was like maybe a week or two ago, something like that. So you can watch the documentary and then read it. But his writing is really good. This would be like my 6th or 7th Attenborough book. And I'm going to like splurge and also read it while listening to David Attenborough narrate the audiobook version of the book. So I don't know. Might retain even more that way, but I've done that occasionally. I did that once too with Children of Hurin, since it was Christopher Lee that was narrating it. So just, when you have a really good narrator, I think that kind of like sells it as well. And then one more that I was thinking, one that I really wanted to get to that I kind of put in because his prose is really good, and it's David George Haskell's Sounds Wild and Broken, Sonic Marvels, Evolution's Creativity, and the Crisis of Sensory Extinction. And this is all about, I guess, just wilderness soundscapes. How did animal sound, animal songs sort of come to be, why it's important, what they use it for, how did it develop, and then with all the like kind of audio and noise pollution that goes on, both above land, in the sky, and in the water and stuff, what are the problems that different species are facing because of that. And then let's move on to a couple of history ones here. So I've been on apparently a American Revolutionary War kick for some reason, and this is one I'd like to get to, and it's Shots Heard Around the World, America, Britain, and Europe in the Revolutionary War by John Ferling. And the reason I want to get to this one, I read the first 2 Rick Atkinson Revolutionary War books that are out earlier this year, and this one I think will take kind of more of like a global perspective on the war as a whole and stuff, so I think that might be kind of interesting. Plus it'll fit really good with quarter 3 of Historathon, which is reading things between the year 1500 and 1820. So yeah, like I said, I don't know, like I almost never read American history, but this year I think this would make it like my 5th or 6th book, I think. Ish. So I think that might be a good one. For those who like more ancient stuff, like myself here, I recently picked up this one. I think during Yale University Press's like big book sale like a month or 2 ago. And it's Catherine Tempest's Brutus, the Noble Conspirator. Not gonna lie, I didn't know anything about this book. I just happened to see it, and the price was right. And I've never read a biography of Brutus. Read a lot a lot of biographies during kind of that whole fall of the Republic era. You know, read books on Caesar, read books on Cicero, read books on Cato, read books on, oh, I'm sure there's probably a whole bunch that I'm just like drawing blanks on for some reason. You know, but between that period, between the Gracchi and Augustus, plenty of on Augustus and well, I guess Gracchi to Nero really isn't like a biography, but still. Anyways, haven't read one on Brutus himself, so just might be kind of like an interesting kind of toss-up there. And then, you know, in the super long shot, Princeton University Press sent me this thing. If anyone wants to read it with me, though, I think I did have Brian, I think, said he picked it up as well. Might do it. We got Bernd Rovick's The World at First Light, a new history of the Renaissance, translated by Patrick Baker. I don't know. I think this better fill in pretty much all the gaps in my knowledge here about the Renaissance. I only have kind of like a cursory overview of that era. Usually once we get to about, you know, the very like late Middle Ages, late 1400s, early 1500s, I kind of just trail off. I always used to just trail off with my history reading and stuff. Just didn't care about it like as much, and didn't, just like I said, just wasn't interested. But now, like I said, I'm kind of in the mood where I've been trying to fill in gaps on like different subjects or different countries, areas, and eras that I haven't read before or read much about or something. So I feel like this monster of a book better fill in. Feel well rounded at least, and be able to talk about the Renaissance in some way, shape, or form. And then, besides history, I really enjoy philosophy, and I'm planning on reading quite a bit more in the second half of the year here. And this one kind of is like a bridge between, I guess, the history and philosophy reading. And it's Plato and the Tyrant, the fall of Greece's greatest dynasty and the making of a philosophic masterpiece by James Romm. So I've read 2 of his other books. I've read his Sacred Band, about the Sacred Band of Thebes. So he wrote a book tangentially on Thebes, so that's already like a huge winner because that's my favorite polis of the ancient Greek world. He also wrote Ghosts on the Throne, which I think was about like kind of the immediate like year or two after Alexander the Great's death. And I think I enjoyed that one pretty good as well from what I remember. So anyways, I saw this one too, and Plato and the Tyrant. So I'm assuming this is all about Plato's foray into like real world politics, where he went over to Sicily and with the Syracusan tyrants. I assume it was, I can't remember which one, if it was Dionysius the Great. But anyways, there was a bunch of tyrants who ruled Syracuse during this era, and you know, Plato, I don't know if I think he was like invited or something, and they didn't really like his advice, so they almost tried to trap him or something along those lines. It just didn't go very well, and I think he did it twice. So I think it's kind of the historical, I guess, context of like I said, Plato's kind of forays into these things, and then how this might have influenced like his Republic and the laws and some of his other philosophical writings. So I thought this one would be kind of a good bridge, like I said, between the history and the philosophy worlds. And then I picked up 2 philosophy works. So one that I definitely really want to get to, that I said in like one of my other videos, I have to basically read this year, is After Virtue. I've read little fragments of it in school and everything, and I felt like it clicked pretty well, but I just like wasn't reading entire works at the time. But Alasdair MacIntyre like really kind of catapulted virtue ethics back to the forefront. I think in the like early to like mid 80s. Unfortunately, he did pass away this year, so I figured this would be a great time to kind of read his work and figure out what it's really all about. And like I said, this was kind of like a catalyst in, like I said, virtue ethics thinking and stuff. So I've heard really, really great things, but it's definitely one that you gotta like take your time and approach thoroughly. And then one more, I figure, I don't know too much about it. I do know Alexander Nehamus is like really good. He's a good philosopher. But I found this, I can't remember where I found this one used, but it's on friendship. And I've read the first like few pages and stuff, and it felt like it would just be for someone who's like completely brand new to philosophy. This would be a super unintimidating kind of philosophical-ish book on a really kind of neat topic that I haven't read too much about, like from a philosophical lens, if that makes any sense. So anyways, if any of those sound interesting, let me know down in the comments below, and definitely check out all 3 of the Discords where we talk about these kinds of books and stuff. I want to be more active on them, but also do more buddy reads. So, like I said, might be a long shot, might not be, but whether you're reading books with other people or not, always remember, read victoriously.